Hello, and welcome to September 2010's What to See in the Night Sky Astronomy podcast with me, Dwayne Alexander. In this episode, the planets, the Andromeda Galaxy, a comet, and more. We start this episode with one of the brightest objects currently in the night sky, other than the Moon and the Sun. This is Jupiter. During September, Jupiter will appear like a bright star rising in the east after sunset, and for most of the night will become obvious high in the sky as a bright star. But just in case you're still at a loss to where to find Jupiter, it's the brightest star in the constellation of Pisces at the moment. On the 22nd, a full moon passes just up and to the right of Jupiter. Through a telescope or binoculars with a large aperture, some small pinpoints will appear close to and on either side of Jupiter. These will be the brightest members of Jupiter's moon system. Also visible on Jupiter will be the bands of clouds which makes up the atmosphere of Jupiter, and if you're lucky you may get to see the Great Red Spot, an anti-cyclonic storm that's been raging for thousands of years. Jupiter has a fast rotation, and all of its clouds features and the Great Red Spot rotate around the planet around every 10 hours. Meaning if you observe the entire night you will see a lot of detail on the planet in just one night. The reason for Jupiter and its bands across the planets is due to its speed, the height of the clouds, its latitude, and the sun's radiation, which gives the bands a distinctive colour. The main belts and zones are as follows. Starting from north down to south, we have the North Polar region, North Temperate Belt, the North Tropical Zone, the North Equatorial Belt, the Equatorial Zone, the South Equatorial Belt, the South Tropical Zone, the South Temperate Belt, and the South Polar region. Jupiter has made news headlines recently when a strange flash was videoed by two observers, Chris Go in the Philippines and Anthony Wesley in Australia. Turns out the strange flash was most likely a meteor burning up in the atmosphere. Then one of the pre-mentioned belts on Jupiter faded, the South Equatorial Belt. This happened before, but it's always unpredictable. The reasons for why this has happened, and what seems to be random times, is not fully understood. But in the past, the faded South Equatorial Belt has often finally returned over a period of a few months to even a year, with many interesting details to be observed, such as dramatic dark and bright areas in the area where the South Equatorial Belt should be. This could happen at any time, from the next couple of months to the next year. Jupiter is definitely a planet to keep an eye on, and with Jupiter directly opposite the Sun from our viewpoint in space, now has never been a better time to start observing this spectacular planet. Now, have you seen Uranus? If you haven't, there's a good chance of seeing it coming up. Uranus is right on the limit of naked eye visibility in very dark sites, and is easily overlooked. So I recommend binoculars on a tripod or a telescope. Focus them on Jupiter on the night of the 21st, and just above Jupiter will be a faint greeny object. This will be the planet Uranus. There isn't much surface detail to be seen, apart from its greeny colour, but I find observing the planet as a bit more of a challenge and further away, something a bit special. Moving on to the other planets this month. Have you seen Mercury? You haven't? Well, there's another opportunity rising, literally this month. Mercury will be visible rising above the eastern horizon between the 8th and 19th, reaching its highest point in the morning skies at sunrise on the 19th, showing at magnitude minus 0.3 and 18 degrees west of the Sun on this date. From the 19th to the 5th of October 2010, it makes its way back down towards the horizon again. I recommend viewing this planet from a location with a low and clear eastern horizon, just before sunrise, around the 17th and 29th, as this will mean the planet will be at its brightest and most furthest away from the horizon, and therefore most easy to see. But please remember, never look at the Sun even with naked eye, and most definitely not with binoculars or telescopes, or less projected, as there will be a chance of eye damage. Also low in the sky, on the west-southwest horizon, will be three planets, Saturn, Venus and Mars. Now to find west-southwest, the Sun sets almost west, so it will be slightly south or to the left from where the Sun is set. Mars and Venus will be near the bright star Spica in Virgo. This will appear quite bright, whereas Spica and Mars will be of similar brightness to each other, but dimmer than Venus. Also in Virgo, but more to the west, or to your right if you're looking towards where sunset, is Saturn. Saturn will be of similar brightness as Mars and Spica, but due to it being slightly closer to the Sun, glare after sunset will be a bit more tricky to see. All three planets I've just mentioned lie in above positions on the 1st of September 2010, around 30 minutes after sunset, and will be hugging the western horizon, meaning once again you will need a low and clear western horizon to see these planets. Also in the sky is a comet, Comet 103P Hartley. This comet is predicted to brighten from plus 8.7 to plus 5.8 during September, and may be spotted using binoculars. Comet Hartley passes through the constellations of Northern Pegasus, Andromeda, and Cassiopeia. However, the moon will make viewing difficult in the last week of September. For those not experienced with the night sky, you may wish to try on or either side of the night of the 30th of September. This is because the comet will lie close to the constellation of Cassiopeia, which looks a bit like a W in the night sky. The comet will lie close to and just below the bottom star in the right-hand V, which makes up the W of Cassiopeia. This star is called Scheider, and if you view this star through binoculars or a telescope, just visible near to it will be a faint fuzzy patch. This will be the comet. The comet is expected to brighten further during October, but as often the case with comets, they often don't follow predictions on brightness, but it is still worth a look all the same. Staying with the same area of sky, we now head to our nearest galaxy in space. The Andromeda Galaxy lies in the constellation it's named after, Andromeda. To find Andromeda, you need to go back to the constellation Cassiopeia. Once again, go back to the star Scheider. Now draw an imaginary line, keeping it straight, all the way towards Jupiter, the brightest star in the sky. You'll notice on doing this that it passes by another brighter star roughly halfway between the two. This is Alpheus in the Great Square of Pegasus. Leading away from this star towards the constellation to the left of Cassiopeia called Perseus is two lines of stars. This is Andromeda. Now go back to your imaginary line in the sky. Roughly halfway between Scheider in Cassiopeia and Alpheus in the Great Square of Pegasus, you may notice just to the left of your imaginary line is a faint fuzzy patch when seen in the dark sky. Just to the left of that is the star of Andromeda. This faint fuzzy patch is the Andromeda Galaxy, also known as M31. Through binoculars, more detail is visible, and even more through a telescope. Now we move on to the Moon and the phases for September 2010. All times are BST. The last half is on the 1st of September at 6:22 AM. Rises at 10:36 PM and sets at 2:54 PM. New Moon is on the 8th of September at 11:30 AM. Rises at 6:28 AM and sets at 7:02 PM. First half is on 15th of September at 6:15. The first half is on the 15th of September at 6:50 AM. Rises at 3:29 PM and sets at 11:06 PM. Full Moon is on the 23rd of September at 10:17 AM. Rises at 6:27 PM and sets at 6:59 AM. Well, that's it for this podcast. Remember you can watch these podcasts as vodcasts on YouTube. There's also star charts and links on my website, www.djmysterious.byview.com/astronomy.html. Don't forget the .html at the end, otherwise it won't work. I'm Dwayne Alexander, and once again, thank you for listening to the podcast. Clear skies.